Welcome everyone to the virtual college exploration for all Pennsylvania students, sponsored by the Pennsylvania Association for College Admission Counseling and StriveScan. PACAC is a nonprofit association comprised of more than 1,200 school counselors, college admission counselors, independent education consultants, and other professionals responsible for guiding students through the important transition from high school to post-secondary options. Thank you all students and parents for joining us today. A few housekeeping announcements before we get started. Your camera and microphones are off, so panelists will not be able to see or hear you during the presentation. However, there is the Q&A button available, so please type in your questions to the presenters at any time. They will be able to see this throughout the presentation. This is just one of the many sessions available, so please feel free to visit our website at www.pacac.org/virtual to see other upcoming sessions. And also, as a reminder, this presentation is being recorded and will be available within the week at that same website, www.pacac.org/virtual. So now I'd like to turn it over to our wonderful presenters. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us today.
Thanks so much for that great introduction. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for today's presentation. My name is Ashley Browning, and I am the Vice President for Enrollment Management at Hollins University, located in Roanoke, Virginia. Excited to spend some time with you today, and I'll ask my colleagues, Ben and Erin, to introduce themselves as well.
Hey everyone, I'm Erin Slater. I am the Director of Admissions at Randolph-Macon College in Ashland, Virginia, so just about 15 minutes north of Richmond. I second that I am just really excited to be here with you and looking forward to talking about decoding college admissions.
Hey everybody, I'm Ben Bentley. I'm an Assistant Director of Admissions at Roanoke College in Salem, Virginia. So about 15 minutes away from Hollins, actually. But again, just echoing my colleagues' statements, excited you all are joining today.
Thanks so much. So we have a great program scheduled for you today. I know the college admission process, it can be kind of overwhelming, right? So we want to offer our expertise on some popular topics to help you kind of see behind the curtain and understand what some of these terms and processes that are regularly referenced in college admission mean. So today we're going to go over holistic review. That's an application process that we all use as small private universities in Virginia, but it can be kind of coded language. So we're going to unpack that a little bit and help you understand what that means when your file is reviewed at a school that uses holistic review. We're going to talk about test optional. So that's really popular this year. We know many of you have not had the ability to take the SAT or ACT at all, or perhaps not to take it on the timeline that you wanted to, or as many times as you wanted to. So we're going to talk about what it means to apply to schools through test optional admission policies and offer to answer some questions about that too. And then I'll close our program to talk about affordability. I think it's really important for you to know that even though you're not a Virginia resident, coming to a Virginia private college can still be really affordable for you. So we're going to talk big picture about institutional aid, federal aid, and how you can help make a private university accessible, whether it's in-state or not. So I'm going to kick it off with an overview about Hollins. We're all going to do a small 1 or 2 minute overview of the programs that our schools offer. And I apologize that my screen's cut off there for you. But what I can tell you is that at Hollins, it's all about women empowering women. So if you're on the line and you're a young woman looking to be in an environment where you really get to see women take the lead, then Hollins is the place for you. As a small community, we really pride ourselves on allowing our students to be a name and not a number. I think that's something that you'll hear from Roanoke and Randolph-Macon as well. It's really different to arrive to a community where you can really be known. And known for your academic pursuits, your athletic pursuits, for your passions in politics and social justice. It's really something special to get to be on a campus where people know you in a really intimate way. So that's an advantage of picking a small place. Here at Hollins, we offer 29 different majors. The most popular are always English and creative writing and biology. So I think that really shows the breadth and depth of our liberal arts curriculum. It's not uncommon at all here for us to have a student who's majoring in biology also be the lead in our theater production in a fall semester. So we really want students to have an opportunity to explore over the curriculum. And we also know that in addition to the rich academic experience that you get here, you're looking for value-added opportunities to help build your resume while you're an undergraduate student. So I'm glad to share that here at Hollins, 2/3 of our students complete an internship before they graduate. We're able to offer guaranteed internships for every student who wants one, which is a huge advantage. Undergraduate research is easy to come by here as a small community, and you're doing that directly with tenure track faculty members, which is a great opportunity. And then almost half of our students study abroad while they're with us here at Hollins. So we run our own program in London. We are kind of a trendsetter when it comes to study abroad. We were one of the first in the nation to offer a robust program for women in study abroad. And we have great scholarships to support those opportunities too. So you'll know that kind of the classroom extends beyond just the core campus here in Roanoke. We have a certificate in leadership studies. That's a great fit for a young woman who wants to grow her own leadership style and confidence. It's just as good of a fit for a business student as it is for a biology student. It's about 30 credits, so easy to add on, whether you're taking a rigorous major or one that might require less credits. Happy to answer your questions about that. We do compete in the Old Dominion Athletic Conference, and we have 9 D3 sports, including an equestrian riding team that draws students from across the nation. It's very well known and has a great history. Happy horses, happy students. That's for sure the case up at the barn. We were recently ranked by the Princeton Review as #5 best alumni network. If you're looking at women's colleges, you know that our graduates are really passionate about the experience that they have at a women's school. And they're really committed to making sure you have that experience also. So I'm going to turn things over now to my colleague to share some of the excellent news about Roanoke College. And Ben, I apologize that your slide's a little cut off there.
It's all good. I think the main thing that's cut is the section about, oh yeah, that works, is our name. Yeah, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about Roanoke before we get started. So as I said earlier, we are about 15 minutes away from Hollins. We're kind of on the opposite side of Roanoke City. We are another small private liberal arts school, again, a 4-year residential campus. We have just over 2,000 students on campus with 39 states and 31 countries represented. So while it is a smaller student body, you are getting exposed to students from all over the country and all over the world, being able to learn new ways of thinking and new cultures while you're there. We do have a 58-42 split from female to male. Athletically, we do have 22 intercollegiate athletic teams. Most recently added, bringing us to 22, was men's wrestling. So we're very excited for them to be joining us, and they will start their inaugural season in the fall of 2021. So if there's any wrestlers out there, we'd love to chat with you for a little bit. We do have 100 different areas of academic studies. So that's 50 majors and 69 minors, concentrations, and pre-professional programs. The nice thing is you are not subject to the minors and concentrations within your major discipline. So if you are a biochemistry major on the pre-med track and you want a minor in art because you love to draw, you have that ability and you're going to be encouraged to pursue that. Along with, we want you to do a lot of things outside of the classroom as well. So we do have over 100 different clubs and organizations. It's nice to kind of be in the area that we are because we do have the wonderful Blue Ridge Mountains as a backdrop, but also the city of Salem and the city of Roanoke accessible to our students within a 15-minute drive. So there's a lot of things to do, whether it's on campus or off campus. I'll pass it off to Randolph-Macon.
Hi there. So again, I'm Erin. So happy you're here with us today. I'm from Randolph-Macon College. So Ashland is just 15 minutes north of Richmond. So we are really lucky to have the location that we have as well. But unlike my colleagues, I wish I was your neighbors. You guys are so close to one another. So we have 1,600 undergraduate students only, 53% female to 47% male. We run on a 414 academic calendar. So a little bit different. So 4 months in the fall semester, 4 months in the spring semester, and those sandwich are J-term or January term. And so what J-term is, one intensive course of study for 1 month. And so a lot of our students will take a course of their choosing. It could be a course that maybe they're not as happy about having to take, or one that they really need to focus on a little bit more. They can go on a shorter study abroad. trip, or they can do an internship for 4 weeks because a lot of our majors actually require hands-on learning experiences in the form of internships. So it is a nice way to check those boxes, but it's a little bit different of an academic calendar. We have over 50 areas of study, which include our most recent nursing. So we have a bachelor's of science in nursing, and our new Payne Hall nursing building is being dedicated on Friday. So we're really excited about that. Engineering, so an ABET accredited engineering program, criminology, and cybersecurity are our most recent additions. We also, much like my colleagues, have 100 clubs and organizations, including esports, equestrian, and show choir. We have 13 national fraternities and sororities on our campus, 18 Division III varsity athletic sports. We are also in the ODAC, or the Old Dominion Athletic Conference. So while colleagues and friends on the athletic field, we are competitors. That's okay. Still can be friends. And so number 3 in the state, Virginia, and 24 in the country for the percentage of alumni giving at Randolph-Macon. So it is a tradition here at the college. It is one that we hold very near and dear, and one that our students, faculty, and staff are very appreciative of. And so the last thing that I will talk about is the Edge Career Center. Princeton Review recently named us number 13 career services in the country. It is hallmarked by our boot camp program, which is a mandatory sophomore experience. It starts with an etiquette dinner, how to brand yourself. And so social media, LinkedIn, your resume, etiquette dinners, like I said, a social networking event, the interview, which now includes Zoom interviews. So how do I set up my background? What do I have going on? How do I sign in on time and do my greetings? So all really interesting things that happen over a 2-day period on our campus. And so it's a great immersion period where we have over 150 of our alumni come back to campus and volunteer to help our students. So I'm last in actually segueing into the formal part of our program. And so I'm talking a little bit about holistic review. The question is, what in the world does that even mean? And so I think it's a great question. Ashley actually put it up there and I was like, yeah, what does that mean? So I found this really great quote by Art Colbin that I think sums up holistic review nicely when it says, holistic review involves consideration of multiple intersecting factors, academic, non-academic, and contextual. They enter the mix, so when you apply, and uniquely combined to define each individual applicant. And I think that last phrase, individual applicant, is really, really important for you to know. We look at applications, our institutions review applications on an individual basis. And so you aren't just a number, you aren't just a score, you aren't just your rank, you are everything you want to tell us. That could be through the interview, which we would take into consideration under holistic review, your essay. And so we'll actually talk about that next, the many factors that shape an admission decision. And so again, it isn't just the application or the test or any of those things, it's all of it. And so I always say to my students, if you don't tell us, then we won't know. And we want you to tell us, because what you're able to give us, especially this year, it's going to be so important in helping us make these really informed decisions, because we want you to be successful on our campuses, and we want our campuses to be able to help you get to wherever it is that you want to be. And so there are many admission factors or many factors that go into shaping an admissions decision. So some of the academic factors that we're able to use are your grades and GPA. And now we'll stop. GPA is a loaded term, and it is loaded because schools, high schools, can calculate GPA differently. And so a lot of institutions, mine included, will actually strip down the GPA and weight scores differently. So if you are applying, if you are visiting virtually or otherwise, or having conversations with the admissions office, or if you weren't until I just said that, which is okay too, ask how GPA is looked at. And so what we do is we take the curriculum into consideration. we look at APs and honors, advanced courses and college prep courses, and we take all that into consideration and then put a certain amount of weight to it so that every applicant is on the same page when looking at grade point average. And so as much as we would love to take grade point average at face value, it's just so different everywhere at this point that we want to make sure that we are putting some equity behind it for all of our applicants. So grades and GPA, the curriculum, and it is your individual curriculum at your high school. And so we're looking at that school profile and we're putting your application into context. And so what are you able to take? So it's not what the school down the road offers and how you can't get there. It's your individual circumstance and situation. And we put that application into context. And so a test score, if you're able to take it or not, if some schools are test optional, some schools are test blind. I actually saw a fact just a little bit ago come through my email that 70% of all schools at this point in the US are test optional at least. And so I thought that that was a really interesting statistic. So please know that there are many, many institutions out there that aren't looking at test score and using all of this information to help make informed admissions decisions. So also looking at your essay. And so you're saying, okay, academic factor, essay, I thought there should be a number behind it. Essay's looking at the quality of your writing. And so please make sure that it's proofread and it's there. And I heard a really great, so the Dean of Admissions at Davidson years ago, I was just a baby admissions counselor and I was like, this is so great. So 15 years ago, he actually said, if you dropped your essay on the hallway of your high school, could someone pick it up and hand it back to you? Because it's so uniquely you that they would know exactly who it is. Or could they hand it to absolutely anybody in the school because it's so generic? So please think about that as you're forming your essay and framing what you want us to know. So non-academic factors, we pull those in a variety of different ways. We're looking at grit, leadership, conscientiousness. And so we're looking at that through the essay, through your personal statements, through optional essays if the school's asked for those, through your recommendation letters. And so we're able to look at these non-academic factors to say this student would be a really great fit and bring so much to our campus. And so we want to be able to support you and also just have an excellent experience on our campus. So then we put everything into context. So where did these achievements take place? Did they take place on the field? Did they take place on your horse in the barn? Were you able to work and were you working full time or 30 hours a week? Were you playing a violin as the first chair in your orchestra? So all of this is extremely important and we want to know where the learning happened so that we can understand you and your application better. And so why is holistic review important? Because we really do want you to know that every piece of your application matters. And so as you go to do your application and you're sitting down, you're like, oh, I'm going to quickly just submit this, or, oh, I'm not going to do this optional piece. This year, now so more than ever, please, please, please remember that we are looking at all of the pieces to your application. We want to be able to make informed decisions and we want to really get to know who you are. So it isn't just one grade or one little blip on your application that we're looking at. And so please don't worry as much about that. We do know that it happens and that's okay. And so, but we're able to, again, put things into context with your help because you're going to tell us all of this information and help us understand that. So who you are matters. So please make sure that your application tells your story. And so again, through the essay and the personal statements this year, so incredibly important. Your whole high school experience is reviewed. And so again, back to just that one grade, we really do want you to know that all 4 years. So upward trends, your curriculum, even through your senior year, so incredibly important to make sure that you're exhausting the curriculum to whatever it is that you are able to do and feel comfortable doing. And, you know, just really keep it up. I know that senioritis can be a thing. I know that it is really hard right now to take classes in whichever way you are taking them, whether that be in a hybrid course or strictly online or you are in class. School just doesn't necessarily look the same as it used to. And so please know that we are looking at absolutely everything throughout your high school career. And then just don't cut corners on your application. And so we are using all of the information holistically to put all of those pieces and parts together to get a bigger picture and a better picture of you as our applicant. So please don't cut corners. So thanks. I hope that was helpful.
Thank you, Erin. Ben, I think, are you ready to walk us through test optional?
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. So, there's a couple things I kind of want to go over with test optional. What is it? Why is it a thing? And when should you apply test optional if you have the option of doing so? First off, really kind of just what test optional is. It's actually just the opportunity for you to choose if your scores play a role, if you have them. Obviously, this year, as I'm going to jump down to my last bullet, not a lot of students had the opportunity to take it with testing sites getting canceled or just continuously postponed. And with that, it's kind of an opportunity. I'm going to jump on that with the why in a little bit, though. But a couple terms that you will hear and things you'll see about schools, one that's not mentioned here, but Erin mentioned a little bit earlier, is test blind. So just ignoring the school's scores completely, or test optional. Again, it's a choice. And the most interesting, in my opinion, is test flexible. So there are some schools, it's kind of a minority of schools that are out there right now are actually looking at, they will accept PSAT or PSAT, PACT, pardon. They will also look at AP scores, IB scores, basically any other scores that you have to show. They're being a little more flexible with what scores they're exploring. As I said, again, it's very minimal schools that are currently at that point. One of the biggest things when looking for schools that are test optional, I know it was mentioned earlier, about 70% currently are. All of them will have kind of their testing policy on their website, so definitely explore it. And I think actually a theme with what I'm going to say with test optional is talk to your counselor, especially with that last section. But why is test optional important? Again, it's important for two factors. First off, if you have not had the opportunity to take it, but you still want to get your application in early for one of those earlier deadlines, you can apply test optional and be reviewed, again, off of everything from your high school transcripts. And one thing that Erin definitely mentioned that I am going to reiterate, if an essay or letters of recommendation are optional and you don't have test scores, is you should really send those in, because again, and sometimes it's not your fault that you're not having those scores to put in, and it's definitely great to supplement it and kind of replace it with something else. Because again, especially with us schools that do holistic reviews, being able to say, well, they don't have an SAT score, but look at these letters of recommendation from from their teachers that they've had for 4 years. And another factor in a normal year when it comes to looking at test optional and whether you should apply with your test scores or not, sometimes you don't believe that your scores are an accurate representation of who you are academically. And that's okay. One of the biggest things is talk to your admissions counselor about it, because one of the nice things when it comes to applying to colleges is, just as Erin said, every student is unique. Every school is unique. None of us read applications the same way. None of us require the same things other than probably the submitted application in your transcript. So it's very much talking to them, because there could be a time where you have scores that you can submit to one school, but you probably shouldn't submit it to another one. And again, kind of going into my third one of the win, it's very much situational. For me personally, and I will let my colleagues speak for themselves and their institutions, we usually say if you're within 100 points of our average on the lower end, you can submit your scores. If you are above our average, definitely submit those scores, because when it comes to merit-based scholarship review, you will more than likely receive more merit-based scholarship with those scores. That's one thing, again, I'm probably going to stress this at least 4 more times. When it comes to speaking with your counselor about should you submit scores, your admissions representative at the school, we do want the best for you and we want to help you as much as we can. So we will be honest with you on kind of if those scores will help in one way or another. And trust us, I guess, is something, I did work with a student who didn't believe her scores were an accurate representation of who she was as a student and refused to submit them, even though she would have received more merit funding with the scores than without them. And we don't want you to have to ultimately leave money on the table. So it's one of the things of definitely talk to us when it comes to whether you should submit them or not as a whole. And again, kind of highlighting other aspects of your application. If you know you have a letter of recommendation from someone you've worked with since you were 16, or a coach that are really close with, and there's other areas of your application that you really want to highlight, taking away those scores will put that more into the forefront of your application. Obviously, this year there's not a lot of choice when it comes to the majority of students having those scores. We do know that a fair amount of schools, have instituted in-day testing days where you are able to come to campus and you spend your day taking the score or taking the test to receive that score. So we definitely understand that's one of the big phrases for college admissions ever since, would you guys say February, has been flexibility. And that's something that we're working with you guys. This is definitely a relationship. So when it comes to knowing if you should apply test optional, if you have the scores, or you've only been able to take it once, also checking to see if schools will super score if you are a fortunate person to have more than one test under your belt. And again, checking with them on what their policies are, if they're test blind, test optional, or test flexible, to know whether or not it's best for you to submit them if you have them. And I think the last section is affording. I kind of touched on it with Merritt a little bit, but I will pass it off to Ashley.
Sounds good. Thank you, Ben. That was a great summary. What a challenging year it's been for all of you. So know that we're in it with you, navigating this test optional time. So I'm going to close this out with a little bit on affordability. Both of my colleagues mentioned things that are really relevant to what I'm going to go over today. And then after this slide, I will leave some time for questions, and we'll have our contact information listed too. So if you want to reach out to us privately, you can. So when I think about affording a private education, I think the first thing I like for families to know is that, especially if you are looking at moderately selective private schools, the published cost of tuition is not what you will pay. And I know it seems a little counterintuitive as to, if that's not what you're paying, then why is it published? There's a conversation we can have there too. But we're all fortunate to benefit from large university endowments that allow us to invest in student scholarship and to make a private education accessible to students from a variety of different backgrounds. So that falls into this first bucket here that I've listed, merit-based university funds. So as Ben mentioned, some schools utilize a pretty basic formula in order to determine how much merit-based aid you qualify for. But that's the college or university's way of saying, thank you, student, for putting in so much work in the classroom and really getting that academic profile to where we want it to be. We know it's not easy to get there when you have so many other priorities. So think of the merit-based aid as the university's way of saying, we appreciate you and we want you. I think one thing for you to know about the merit-based aid, this is where your grades really do matter and the rigor of your courses matter. All of that factors into the kind of formula that schools use to determine how much academic merit scholarship you'll qualify for. If you're looking at public universities, I would say generally the dollar amount of the academic merit scholarships at public universities typically aren't as generous, and that's largely because of the published list price difference between public and private. So all of that's complicated, but what you need to know is that at the end of the day, for many students, the cost of a public and private school education, especially if you're a gifted student, are often equitable. I find that to be a big surprise for a lot of my families who just make the assumption that a private school is going to be way more expensive. And then once they get their academic merit and their need-based aid, we're really in the same ballpark as a public university with a lot of additional value in the experience, which is important to consider too in your investment. So beyond the grades and how that's going to result in an academic merit scholarship for you, a lot of universities offer kind of special talent applications. So that could be application-based scholarships for things like leadership, or for students of color, or perhaps for creative writing, like we have one of those here. So I do think, again, having that relationship with your admissions counselor where you can say, hey, these are my gifts, so this is what I'm really passionate about. Are there any scholarships that could be a best match for me? And so those scholarships are opportunities to enhance the kind of standard academic merit scholarship that's offered to you by the university. I think it's a little complicated to navigate those because they all have different timelines. They all require something different. For some of them, you're automatically considered with your application for admission, and for others, you have to submit an extra application. So you do need to be pretty organized. I always suggest just a simple Excel spreadsheet where you can track the cost of tuition and room and board, the academic merit scholarship you've been offered, and then additional scholarships and the deadlines associated with that. Just to help you keep on target with all the other things that you're navigating in your senior year. So that kind of, those are the university-based scholarships, and that's going to be different everywhere that you apply because we all approach that differently. The second bucket that's important for you to consider when it comes to college affordability are federal and university need-based aid. So anything that says need-based aid, that means it is derived from the results of your FAFSA. FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. It's available now. It went live on October 1st. If you're a senior, you can begin working that or submitting that information now. I like to think of the FAFSA kind of as homework for your parents. In a lot of cases, you do need help from a parent or guardian to help you fill out that information. So have them help you with that while you're working on your application. And that way you're both doing something to support the college app process. I've heard from a lot of students already this year who have been impacted financially because of COVID-19. The tough part about the FAFSA is that it uses information about your family's financial history from 2 years ago. And COVID wasn't a thing 2 years ago, right? So I think for this year, more than ever, we're going to see individual appeals from families whose situation in the most immediate year financially looks very different from the year before. And there are a variety of ways that schools can help you navigate that and support an appeal process, both at the federal and the university level. So again, that's where reaching out to your counselor to say, hey, my FAFSA results don't seem right. Or, last year, unfortunately, because of COVID, my family had to close our business, and that's not reflected in our taxes from 2018. We can help you with all of those kind of complicated questions. So I know it feels vulnerable to have to share that information, but it's really important that you do so that we can help advocate for you. I like to just offer a broad kind of definition. Anything that says grant means that it's free money, you don't have to pay back. Same thing with scholarship, free money, you don't have to pay back. But of course, if it's a loan, that's something that either you or a parent or guardian are going to be responsible for paying back. So making sure that you understand the terms of those. Does interest accrue when you're a student? Does it not? What's the interest rate? Again, we're professionals who can help you with all of that. So please use us to answer those questions too. An important question that you want to ask about both your scholarships, loans, grants, everything on your financial aid package when you get it from a college is this award a one-time award or is it renewable for all 4 years? And I would guess that everybody on this call probably has a different amalgamation of what that looks like for every year and every award that's offered. But we want you thinking about the 4-year cost, not just the 1-year cost. So understanding what's going to be there on your package your second year is really important. So that's kind of a pro tip for you. And then the last bucket in terms of helping you afford a university education is third-party scholarships. So I can tell you these do exist. I know it seems like you're applying out into the ether and that nobody ever sees your application, but I always like to tell my own story. When I was in high school, my dad worked for FedEx and I found a scholarship on the FedEx website that my school knew nothing about, and I applied and I got it. And it was a huge, huge help to my family in being able to pay for college. So they do exist. A question you can ask at the schools that you're applying to is, what's their institutional policy with third-party scholarships? Will they allow you to stack those scholarships? So that means adding those funds in addition to the money that's already been offered by the university, or are they going to require that you swap some of that out? If they stack, that's more advantageous for you in terms of bottom dollar as a student and what you'll pay. So that's a question you might consider asking. Scholarships.com and niche.com are both great resources for scholarship searches. I would suggest as a student that you make a Gmail account that's like Ashley Scholarships@gmail.com. because you're going to get a ton of kind of spammy emails when you sign up for these sites. So you really do have to weed through and find the ones that are a best fit for you. And you don't want that clogging up your main site that you're using for like your applications for admission, things that you're really handling very critical correspondence with. So build yourself a Gmail or a Yahoo that's just for your scholarship applications on these sites. Raise Me is a partner here at Hollins, and I know at some other schools as well. That's an opportunity for you to earn micro scholarships throughout the course of your high school career based on basically what I consider good behavior. So good grades, volunteer work, taking hard classes, that might be another resource for you. The Opportunity College Board site is a great one. They have a ton of scholarships there and a lot that are affinity based. So you might look at that also. And then don't be afraid to ask in your local community. Think about your place of worship or where your parents work or your school system. You have to be a little inventive. And if you don't ask, you don't know. So don't be afraid to kind of put yourself out there when it comes to that. So we are going to move into the last portion, which is question and answer. I know not everybody feels comfortable asking questions in this kind of format. So if you want to drop one in the chat, just know we'll read it out loud and share the answer, or you can reach out to us directly after today's time together, and we're happy to connect with you then. Okay, well, I think we're a little quiet on the question end, which means we've answered all your questions, and that makes me feel really good about today. So I hope that we will hear more from you. Thank you for your time, and we hope to see you down in Virginia real soon. Oh, so sorry, you're on mute.
I thought I clicked that. Thank you for that. And thank you, panelists, for that incredibly comprehensive presentation. And thank you, students and parents, for joining us today. When you close this window, there will be a very quick 4-minute survey that will appear, and we would really appreciate any feedback that you can provide. Again, this session was recorded and will be available on the PACAC website within the next week. So please, if there's any part of it that you want to go back and listen to, we encourage you to do that. There was a lot of information in there. And then when you're at the website, you can also view any other upcoming sessions. So again, that website is www.pacac.org/virtual. So thank you again to all of our panelists, and thank you everyone for joining us. And we hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.